Good morning, troops. This is a makeup video for people who are blind and partially sighted, for anyone working with feminine energy. This is just a natural makeup tutorial. It's not anything deep. As I have said before on this channel, this is mainly about the independence and well-being and self-reliance of people working with a special need. So let's get into it. This is a foundation that I'm going to use. I'm not going to show you. I'm going to put the link below because it's going to be easier. I think it's by L'Oreal. I'm not going to try and check. What I am going to do is I'm going to put 3 pumps of the foundation into my hands. As I said, I'm going to be doing this mainly by feel. So I'm going to apply it and then I'm going to attempt to look in the camera and see what's going on, because that way it's going to be much easier than trying to show you as I go. Now obviously, because I'm doing this by feel, I try to apply the same action on both sides of my face with my hands. The key here is going to be trying to level the consistency. I'm trying to use very good blending techniques, and the reason for using my hands is because I get used to the feel that way. I do use brushes, I just don't use brushes for everything because I find it much easier to blend this way. So I'll try to be as close to the camera. For the sake of those of you who are listening, I'm at the present time blending this foundation into my face as well as I can. So we're going right up to the hairline. Obviously you can feel where your hairline begins, and then when you do under your eyes, it's a good idea to lift your eyes up. I tend to look a bit like a zombie when I do that because my eyes don't move together. So to some people that's uncomfortable, but that's okay. So when I think that it's well blended, and also you blend into the side by your ears, so from your temples to from the corners of your eyes to your temples to outwards, and your ears. Even if you wipe it slightly over your ears, it's important at this time to make sure that your hair is tied back and that your neck is clear. I mean, yeah, I've got my gold cross on, which is not ideal because I'll get makeup on that, but hey ho. So the whole point of this is that if you blend very well, then if you make any mistakes, it shouldn't look too monstrous because it's blended well. Also, it's a good idea to make sure that you visit either with a well-known friend, trusted family member, or somebody that you know loves you, to make sure that the colour matches your face, because when one makes a mistake, it's much kinder experience when at least the colour matches your face. I'm going to lean forward now into the screen. It probably looks like I'm not looking into the screen, but I am. I think that's quite good. So now, just to check, I have a friend who bought me this amazing magnifying mirror. For the sake of those of you who are listening, I've got this magnifying mirror in my hand. Now normally the magnifying mirrors that you can easily buy in store only go up to 20 times 20. This is actually times 30, which is really quite strong, but I need it this strong to be able to see anything at all. I have an eye disease called nystagmus, and my corneas are not formed properly, and this was the case from birth. So I have a little bit of sight, but it's very limited. So now I'm going to use the magnifying side of my mirror to check that I believe this is blended, and I think it's blended quite well. By the way, I will post a link below, but this is not it's not a strong foundation. It's sort of slightly transparent. The reason for that is because sometimes the stronger the makeup, the worse it can look if you get it wrong. There's always needs to be room for improvement. Okay, now I want to talk a little bit about brushes. I've got makeup brushes here in my hand. Now, for those of you who are able to see a little bit, you'll be able to tell that they are all very different. Now, what I make sure I do is if I use a particular makeup, I make sure I only use one brush for one type of makeup. It just stops mistakes. So I've got this brush here, which looks like a sort of gone wrong triangle. It's slightly pointed at one end. I'm just going to dab this slightly into my concealer. Once again, I'll post this below. I don't think it's sensible to try and show you these products via the camera because I wouldn't be able to see it, so perhaps you won't have the pleasure of that either. So I'm going to attempt to put this in the corner, the very corner. Now there's quite a lot of concealer there, so I'm going to dab it slightly because it's quite important sometimes not to have too much product. The reason for that is because it just makes blending so much more difficult. And then what I'm going to do, because I'm going to be using the same colour as under my eyes, on the top of the brow bone where it's hard, I'm going to use the same brush there. I'm going to use my magnifying brush to do that just because I can't actually see the screen. But I probably could do this with my eyes closed. Because I do have to do makeup like that a lot, especially if the lighting is very bad. So these are the areas where I have the foundation. Obviously it's not blended, and you may notice if you can see a little, but if you can't, I'll explain it. I have put the line on the brow bone, but not absolutely meeting the eyebrow. The reason for that is because I need room to blend up and across. And if it's right on the brow, on the eyebrow, it tends to just end up all over the eyebrows, which is not ideal because then you've got to colour your eyebrows in, which for anyone who's blind probably knows that that is really difficult. So now I'm using my finger, my index finger, to blend in the product as well as I can. I'm going by feel at the moment. I can see in the camera a little bit, but not a lot. So here we go. And so what I did was I drew a vertical line of concealer under my eye, a bit like the line that comes down under the Egyptian eye, if anyone's ever had the pleasure of seeing that or knowing what that might look like. So I'm blending as well as I can. So with eye makeup, I was always taught by an amazing makeup artist called Pat McGrath. Once again, I'll post a link below because I've worked with her personally and she's amazing. I don't know if she does makeup anymore. I think she just has her own brand. Never to drag the skin. You can stroke, and as long as the product glides, and that's great, but dragging is not the way, especially for mature skin. I've been doing my makeup quite a long time now because I'm a musician and we have a lot of shows, which means that we have to do our own makeup, so I sort of had to get with the program. I apologise for the noise outside. I live on quite a busy street. Okay, so I think I'm blended in underneath on my right eye. Now I'm just going to do the left eye. And also, as time goes on, what you'll find is that you'll get used to the consistency of the makeup and you'll know. Right, now I'm going to blend the brow bone, the brow line. So if I just go really gently using the same finger because it's the same makeup. Again, you can feel where the hair is because the hair on your eyebrow will be at the top of your finger. Ideally, you don't want to be going over that because if you're going over that, then it just means that you're going to have to sort of blend that out, and then I'll use my other finger. Like I said, I'll try and do it mainly by feel. trying to pat and stroke rather than drag. This is feeling good now. Check under the eyes again, just to be sure. And when you blend under your eyes, it's a good idea to open your eyes as wide as you can and try and look up. The reason for that is because if you don't do that, you get residue from the makeup all over your lashes, and once again it's another thing that one has to clean. And obviously we want to try and keep things easy. So I'm checking now in my magnifying mirror. This feels pretty good to me. So now you can have a look here. I have to say that I do have false lashes on, and the reason for that is because I know that I can never put lashes on myself. So I've got my lash girl who's amazing. Her name is Zara. I'll post her link below. She's great and she's on Instagram. It's just much easier for me, and to be honest, I find mascara really difficult because if you don't get one that's the right consistency, it just goes everywhere. Right, now I have another brush because I personally like to give my eyes a little bit of definition, simply because my eyes, I think, are quite small, and as a blind person we suffer with that because the muscles around our eyes don't move a lot, or sometimes they move too much, which means that we tend to have quite a small eye socket, or it can look a bit dead around that area. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a little bit, just a little bit of brown powder in the socket of my eye, which is the area below the eyebrow. Right, I'm going to dab it really slightly on a palette which I have, which is from Revolution. I love Revolution because I think they have great colours for a high street brand, and the pigment is quite good. So by that I mean it's quite strong. So I'm going to use just a very light brown because I don't want it to be too strong. I want it to be quite gentle because this is a natural daytime look. So I'm patting the brush gently and then I tap it on the palette to get rid of any, and give it a quick blow, to get rid of any residue that might be forming there. I was going to use the mirror, but I'm going to try and lean forward and just see if I can guess. So I'm going now to the corner, the outer corner of the eye. And for now, it's going to probably look a bit crap in the beginning, but trust me, we're going to blend it and it's going to be great. So I'm going to the outer corner of the eye now. And I'm stroking gently in the eye socket, just the corner. I'm not going to do the whole socket because the definition that I need really needs to just be in the corner. Now I'm feeling that, so now I'm going to use the rest of the powder on this corner, and I'm going to just take it from the middle of the eye socket and blend out towards the ear, the temple, should I say. You don't want to go as far as your ears unless you like fashion makeup, but I personally haven't got that far. Yeah, and again you want to try and do this by feel, and then we're getting close. One eye has a bit more than the other one, so I'm going to use my magnifying mirror to check. Yeah, I can see that. So I'm going to add a little bit more powder. As I said, I'm just using a very mid-brown because my face is kind of a brown, light brown colour. So I only want the eye makeup to be slightly darker than my skin because I'm just looking for shadow definition. I'm not really looking for deep, rich colour and dramatic effect. And I'm blending it here. Okay, I'm feeling that this is working now. So for those of you who are listening, I'm currently blending out the corner of my eye socket with brown powder. I think I've done one eye better than the other one, but to be honest, as a blind person doing makeup, I actually find that that's always the case. I'm not sure why that is. Okay, right. I think this is looking good. So I'm going to check. Okay, I'm feeling that. So now what I'm going to do is I have, like I said, use one brush for one product. It makes it easier. And the other thing that's a great thing to do is to use wet wipes or a clean damp towel so that you can clean your hands in between every stage should you choose to use your hands to do makeup. I find it just helps in case you get any sort of previous residue that you don't want there. It's just much easier. So here we go. Now what I do is I have one particular brush which is just for blending the eye makeup. I don't use this brush for anything else. Obviously you can label your brushes by your feel because, you know, I like to think of my brushes as flowers. So at the moment I've got what feels like a tulip, and if you've never felt a tulip then maybe you should do that so that you can get used to your brushes and make sure that there's a symmetry between the sizes. It just helps to mark it. Failing that, what you could do, which I haven't done, is you could put a braille label on it, on the actual stem of the brush, which would help you to know what it's for. So there are lots of ways that you can get around that. And I use this brush to blend the eye makeup. I just stroke the brush gently around the eye area because, like I said, blending when doing eye makeup when you're blind is quite important, I think, because any drama that's not supposed to be there doesn't look quite so bad if it's blended well. So here we go. Right, okay, that's good. I'm feeling that. I don't always check the mirror. Sometimes I check the magnifying mirror if I just feel like I'm not getting it right. Right, I have this amazing blusher that I'm going to use. I like these crayon pencil type things that seem to be out in the shop a lot, you know, at the moment, just because they're easy to remove, and if you make a mistake it's not so bad. So I'm going to rub 1, 2, 3 on the apple of my cheek, 1, 2, 3 on the apple of my other cheek. Again, I count the strokes. Usually I don't obviously count out loud, but for the sake of the video I will. And the reason for that is so that I can try and monitor the consistency of the makeup. Right, this is my blusher brush. I'm going to start with a pretend smile and do the apples of the cheeks, and the apples of this cheek here. It's always fake smile time, just because you really want it on there, on the apple of your cheek is where you want it to really sit, and you can blend it out towards your cheekbone, but you want to start, especially when it's blush, with the apple really, and then you can put a little bit on your head, just a dab, your nose and cheek and chin. It's just so you have a more flushed, natural look, and it's not so uniformed. Right. And it depends how much you like as well, you know. Some people don't like really rosy cheeks. I actually do. Probably because I liked a TV character called Aunt Sally when I was a kid. And she had really rosy cheeks, and I just thought she was the best thing ever. Sorry, that's my phone, and this is a new experience, so lots of things are going wrong. But that's okay. So, right, now what I've got here is I have got a little tiny brush that doesn't have any product on it, and it's like a tiny brush that I brush my lashes with. Failing this, if you wanted to, you could always use mascara, and perhaps I will do a video one day, you know, showing how I put mascara on. What a tip that I can give you, if you are a person that likes mascara, is to perhaps let the tip of the mascara dance on the end of your eyelashes. The reason for that is sometimes when you go right to the root, you can get a lot of residue of makeup around the root, which is not a good look. So this was just a little brush that doesn't have any product on it that's to make them look neat. I can get away with doing that because I have false lashes on, so that's quite easy. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to, lastly, just use a little bit of lipstick. It's like a lip crayon, and it's made by, oh gosh, who's it made by? I think this is by Rimmel, actually. I tried to find one that's similar to my lips but just flushed. So I am going to use my magnifying mirror. Well, first of all, I'm going to guess, actually. No, I'm going to guess where the line is. Because I'm quite used to doing it. And then I gently hover over the lip. At the moment, sorry, I'm putting this lipstick on and I can't talk when I'm doing that. Right, I'm going to have a look in my magnifying mirror because I actually can't see what that looks like at all. Right, it's not too bad. It's bearable. Once again, I'm going to turn up the crayon and I'm going to hover over the edge of the lips and stroke and stroke, and the top of the cupid's bow, and then I'm going to rub my lips together. Because it's a natural makeup look, I'm not looking for really strong lipstick. Once again, when you start doing your makeup with your hands as a blind person, what you'll find is you'll get to know your face very well. So I know the shape of my lips very well, so I find that relatively easy to do. I do it a lot in public when I don't have a mirror. Now that's not incredibly tidy, but once again, because it's not a really strong colour, I can get away with it. What you can actually do, if you're concerned that it's not done properly, there are a couple of tricks. You can get the cotton bud and rest it just outside of your lip line and go round. And try to always use a side you haven't used before. You can tell by your feel. So that you can clean the corners, then go to the other end, start at the cupid's bow, go round, and go round, and there you go. I always suffer from slightly dry lips. That's a thing one has to work on as well because it's not a good look. Now, my last little thing that I really like, and I've been getting it wrong for years, but I am going to try and see if I can do it. The old movie stars always had a beauty spot. Now I've just got a tiny little freckle which is on the right hand side of my mouth, and I love it. When I was young, I used to complain and ask my mum if I could have it removed. And of course the answer was no. But now that I'm older, I like it because I love the old 50s movie stars. So what I'm going to try and do, I have to use my magnifying mirror for this, is to find the freckle and dab very slightly in that area. Just dab and try and draw what feels like it could be a circle. Okay. Not bad. I think the good news is, what I've noticed from using my magnifying mirror is that actually the freckles that I have are not perfect circles. So if it's a non-perfect circle, it's fine. I'm using a brown one just because if you were daring enough to decide you wanted a beauty spot, using black is not usually a good idea. The reason for that is because when you go through the day and the colour fades, it tends to look blue, which looks a bit strange. So usually dark brown looks good on everybody, really, especially if your skin's very, very pale, because the last thing you want is a blue dot on your face, unless that was your intention. So anyway, this is almost finished. What I'm going to do now is use my last brush, and if I was going to think of this brush as a flower, this is a totally different shape to all of the other brushes that I have. This is more like what do they call it? A rose, because it's opened out and it's fat and it's round. So I use this just to go over all the makeup and just to blend it slightly. This is like my blending one. Normally people use a much bigger brush than this, I think, because you're using it just to make sure everything's blended. I do think of this as quite an important stage for us as partially sighted and blind people doing makeup, just because it's the last final stage of making everything look blended. Because what I've noticed from watching a lot of makeup tutorials, that seems to be one of the most important things, is that things look blended. So there you go. And there you go, it's all done. I hope you've enjoyed it. What I can tell you is there are a couple of tricks that you can try if you do have a little bit of sight. You can take a picture on your phone of your makeup when you think it's done. Then you're able to enlarge it and have a look and see if you believe that it's even enough. You can also see where you need to improve and not. And the other thing that you can do is obviously ask, someone you love to check your face, because that's why we're on the planet, because we're supposed to help each other and be together. And so that should work out fine. So this is the makeup. You will notice that I haven't really used any under eye mascara or eyeliner. I tend not to use that just because I find that really difficult to do. But for the sake of the video, I feel that if you wanted to use it, what you could do is use the colour that matches your face, your eyes, and just stroke gently under the eye. My instinct says that I should at least demonstrate that, so let's have a look. Okay, so what I do is I have a brown, very gentle mascara actually, and because I know that I have little hairs under my eyes, I lift my eyes up and I look up and I gently stroke under the eyes, and I use the little brush to catch the little hairs underneath. So there's just a tiny amount there. The reason I do that is because it's much easier for me to monitor the consistency rather than use a pencil or a crayon. And once again, if you're going to do this, this is a great technique. The only thing I'd suggest is making sure that you wipe off the residue, which I didn't actually do, but you should, because once again you can get too much product. Always look up when you're doing it, because otherwise it's easy to get makeup all over your eyelashes, which is not a good look. But if that did happen, what you could always do is put a drop of water on a little eyelash brush, and you could just clean off the residue of the makeup. So there you go, that was my makeup tutorial today. And the other thing I'd point out is if you do use an eyeliner, don't do what I did and put a lip liner under your eyes so that the date you go on believes you've been smoking weed all night. I decided to do that because I did it in a dark room. I did check the colour properly, And that brings me to another point. Always be sure that when you do your makeup, the lighting's really good, because contrast is really important, as we know, for blind and partially sighted people. And if you do your makeup in a room that's not bright enough, then you could resemble a clown and get a job in a circus, which you might not want to do. Anyway, big love. I hope you enjoyed it. Welcome to Blinding Vision. If you did like the video, please like and subscribe. If you didn't, tell me why. Have a great day.